Start in just a minute. I go do one quick thing on my computer that I realized I need right in here.
Raining of spring.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Finally, today should be a real nice day, actually.
You guys ready to hear some emotion? We're gonna get emotional. All right. Look at all these people not wanting to get emotional.
It's fine. Real estate doesn't involve emotions at all. This is an important skill to.
You know what?
What is this, to not getting emotional or to not show emotion?
Just to generally manage emotion and figure out when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, when it's helpful, when it's not helpful.
Okay, we're gonna start. We're gonna record this, and we can just post it online for all people to learn and, you know, hopefully watch it. For those, so this class, I will share this, came about because, what's the exact title of this class? Things to not do in front of your clients. So the class came about because, while back, there was a number of transactions that fell through during inspection time. Now, you're always going to have things fall through. We're in real estate, but these fell through specifically because the buyers and the sellers each got emotional on their end of things, and the agents fed into it. And unfortunately, what occurred was sellers decided to cancel, buyers decided to not work with the seller anymore because of those emotions. Right? So as agents, do we get emotional sometimes? Do we take things personally sometimes? So let me ask you this question. The question is, can you think of a time, doesn't have to be in real estate, by the way, it's in your personal life. Can you think of a time where you got you let your emotions get the best of you? If you got a little like flustered over something. You think of something? So I'll start with this one. And then we'll dive in. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel like I need to sit with you. I want to feel spoken.
You just, well, we're on the same page when I said, and you stand.
You like that? That was good.
That works.
That was good. I like it. All right, that was good. So people who I like it. I like them, so we can make a short show. So this is gonna be a true story that happened in February. In California, when I was at family reunion. It's nice, okay, that works. We just said this works. So Brandon and I, we got to family reunion in California for the big Keller Williams event. And, you know, long flight, blah, blah, blah. Then we're at the LA airport, which if you've ever been there, is like the worst airport ever, in my opinion. So we like walk from one end to another to get a shuttle, to get a shuttle, to get a shuttle, to get to our rental car place. And rental car place was like a 2-hour wait. I'm hungry at this point, like beyond hungry, okay, like. Oh, I'd be like, I took angry to another level. I'm looking up Uber Eats, who delivers to the rental place. Anyways, fast forward. I started getting super moody. My emotions were at its highest. And he's inside, he's got a rental car, attempting to get a rental car. Finally comes out, he's like, all right, I finally got it. 2 hours later. Finally got it. And he's sitting there and I keep watching other people come out and get in their cars and drive away. And we're still sitting there waiting for the car. So I lose it, go in. And let's just say that I was not my nice self to anyone. There was a lot of choice words used. I felt bad afterwards. Now, did it lead to us getting an upgrade for free and all that? Yes. However, it wasn't nice at all. Like that person didn't deserve it. It's not their fault that they're understaffed. It wasn't their fault that they weren't prepared that day. They weren't the manager, although I did talk to the manager afterwards.
And guess what? They didn't have to offer you that upgrade too. They could have told you to go pound sand. It does not always have positive results.
It could have totally backfired. We could have, yeah, they could have been like, forget you, we don't have anything, never mind.
Actually, you need to wait a couple more hours. I
Right.
think, before it's available.
So-
Man.
There are certain points in our day and our life, right, where we just can't help it. Someone just gets under our skin or something happens or we get angry and we lose it. In real estate with our clients, we don't have the luxury of losing it at all. We can't behind closed doors. You can call your coach and be like, I need a vent. Right? But you can't do it with your clients. Why? Like ever. Why? Not professional, absolutely. Why else?
Our job is to make them feel like we are in control, everything under control. So if we become emotional, then like people like they're like our clients, they're on the outside, they're not like professionals, they don't know about real estate, so they're even more
Yeah.
like frustrated.
Yeah, we're the professionals. We have to make them, they're not in real estate,
Right.
right? They don't know. So we have to make them feel as if everything's under control. And everything's moving as it should be. And even with the hiccups that happen in real estate, the roadblocks and the everything,
Like it can be
it's
fixed.
still okay. It can be fixed. It's going to be okay. Right? Even if something falls apart, it's going to be okay.
And the tricky part is, well, there's lots of tricky parts, but one aspect is we are a person's agent. That like means, it means that we are their representative, right? So if they're upset, like maybe I should be upset. If they're pissed, I should be pissed. But like we try to sort of mimic their energy so that they feel heard and represented. And that could be a tool that you can use. But just make sure you're always actually outcome oriented, right? So that if you're getting excited about something with them, that can be great, but make sure that you're always thinking about, okay, but if they get really spun up about this, that's gonna have huge ramifications later. Maybe this is where I need to push back a little bit. It's figuring out when to be the cheerleader versus like when to be the rock, when to sort of be able to apply some sort of gentle pressure just to kind of give them a little bit of a reality check.
Yeah, and if, they're taking your lead. Right? And I love that you said, if they're excited, get excited. There's a phrase called mirror matching. Right? So mirror matching is both verbally and also non-verbally. So for example, we're in a meeting right now, Shank, right? And I want to mirror match you. I might sit there like this. Now, here's the thing. What I'm not gonna do is every time you move, like, because that would just be awkward.
That's
All
great.
right, that is kind of creepy.
Okay, meeting over.
Yeah.
But tonality wise, if you are excited, I want to match the excitement. However, we want to be careful with mirror matching, to Doug's point, because if you are frustrated, we're going to demonstrate what this sounds like in just a minute. We're going to demonstrate what not to do and then how to handle the scenario verbally. So if they are getting really frustrated, what could be an instance where you have a client really frustrated? What could come up?
Like after the home inspection, the client wants to do all the repairs and you're trying to tell them that you cannot ask all the minor repairs. You have to explain them that, okay, like what happened with my transaction, like initially they wanted to do every little thing, but then I had to educate them, the help of Julie, she did a great job. And we got it.
Now, so now you bring up a great point. Now that's a great segue into our role plan just a minute and our demonstration. I will say this, the more you set expectations up front while you're showing houses at that, after that seller signs with you, okay? The more you're setting all those expectations up front. Hey, just so you know, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, at some point when you choose a house, you may want to have an inspection done. An inspector, now I'm saying this at the first showing. Even if that house they hate, just so you know, as we look at houses, you're gonna put one under contract, you're gonna love one. There will be an inspection at some point if you want that. The inspector's job is to find 30 plus things wrong. Doesn't mean that there's actually 30 plus things wrong. Their job is to find things that are wrong. What we will do is we will look at the report together to just look at the critical items, because we don't want to ask for everything. You'll lose the house if you do, almost always. So if you set that up front, doesn't mean that when the inspection report comes back, they're not going to forget what you said and still want it. But hey, do you remember when we set this expectation? Let's talk through this again. Right, so then go ahead.
Well, and it makes you sound more professional when they're not surprised. When they see a big inspection report that's 50 pages long, like, you're gonna get an inspection report, it's gonna be 30 to 60 pages long, it's gonna feel like it has everything in the sun, but that's totally normal. You have the conversation about, you explain to them what the appraisal process is through the lending process. So if there is an appraisal issue, they're not shocked and suddenly floored, and buyers especially, well, sellers too. I feel like their mind can kind of go in a dark place if they're not sort of primed properly. Like, people really do. Just they see the worst in everything, especially if you're dealing with a first-time home buyer or somebody who just kind of is a naturally anxious person. So to the extent that you can get ahead of some of these things, anticipate some of these concerns, educate, be that professional that's really that's really just setting out the landscapes, they understand what's going to happen. And when I feel like, okay, this is normal, this feels controlled, we're just along for the ride, like there's going to be some bumps, but this is all normal process.
Yeah, and it will help, tying this together, it will help keep their emotions in check slightly. Right? Ours always, theirs don't. So you ready?
Sure.
All right. I'm gonna put on my acting hat here and so very first thing you're gonna watch here is what not to do. This is a what not to do. Do not do this unless you want to lose the clients and have everything fall apart.
Right. So I will play the role of a buyer that has just received.
I'm just gonna play off of whatever he goes with.
Okay.
I'm ready to get all emotional.
Okay, I'm gonna be the seller that has just received the property inspection report and the property inspection notice. Okay, so
From the buyer's agent.
from the buyer's agent. So the seller is looking at this for the first time.
And I'm his agent,
you are
I'm his
my-
listing agent.
Allow me. What the hell, first off? So this document is a lot longer than I expected it to be. I've lived in this house for 15 years. The house has served me well. I don't know what kind of a hack they found to get all this crap. Okay, first off. Second of all, do these buyers really even want this house? they're dinging me for all this ticky-tack stuff. They're acting like the house is gonna burn down because there wasn't a ground. I mean, what are they really afraid of? Do they really think the roof is gonna collapse?
I hear you.
Do they think
They're
the roof's gonna
asking,
burn down?
they're ridiculous. The
Ridiculous.
buyers and the buyer agents.
That's the word I was looking
ridiculous.
for.
Like I don't know why they're asking for all this. That's not right. A buyer's agent should be teaching their buyers what to
You
do.
know, we
They're
keep
not
hearing-
doing any of
we keep
that.
hearing- Right. we keep
How is
hearing-
that buyer agent doesn't know what they're doing?
Well, that's the main thing, right? Because we keep hearing, okay, it's a seller's market, it's a seller's market,
Yeah,
you know, you're
yeah.
digging me for an anti-tip bracket on my freaking oven.
No, you don't need to do that.
Yeah,
Don't
like
worry
I
about
agree, like, well, efflorescence, whatever that
Yeah,
is, I
don't
feel like
worry
they're
about
just making up words. like-
They're asking for ways. Again, this buyer's on their rocker. I don't even know if they want the house. I don't know what's happening here. Like,
We should just like,
this is just,
like get out of this and find people that are actually interested in buying this house, like. I'm starting to really kind of second guess this whole process.
I mean, we could totally relist it. That's not, I mean, if you want to, whatever you want to do, I'm fine. I'm along with you. Like,
Yeah,
you know, if you want to relist it, I mean, I could always go back to the buyer agent and kind of give them a hard time and just see what we can like, kind of
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, screw these.
feel like,
people at this
no, we're
point.
not doing anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the worst gonna happen? We can just like, tell them,
Yeah.
we just tell them to pound sand. You know, if they don't wanna, if they're not cool with that, then we'll just find a buyer that's gonna be more reasonable.
You know what? I agree. This buyer is totally reasonable.
Alright, so, yeah, just tell them that. We'll look at it if they wanna be more serious. If they're willing to be reasonable, you know, we'll look at it, but right now, like, not acceptable.
That's exactly what I'm gonna call them right now.
Okay.
I'm heated just like
Good,
you.
good,
Yeah,
good.
I can't believe these people.
Screw 'em.
Yeah, we'll find better buyers for you.
Okay, good, yeah, because this house is perfect, and I will
Oh,
not have.
it is, it is.
I will
It-
not have anyone disparage my home.
I agree. This house is amazing.
It is,
I
right?
live in this house. I mean,
Exactly, right,
what are they thinking?
you could buy it.
Okay. So what went wrong there?
You were feeding off your client's frustrations. You were kind of agreeing with everything we're saying. And like,
I was agreeing with everything. I was feeding off of it. Yep. Who took the lead? The client led that, huh? Who's the professional? Not in that scenario.
yeah,
Nobody was professional in that scenario. Right? But do you see how easy it is? Right? It is easy when we, as people who start caring about other people, right? When we get a relationship with our clients, we start caring about them. Or at least I hope we do.
Right,
It's the business. And when they're frustrated, when they're having emotions, sometimes we don't think and we just speak and we just act. Right?
because, and part of it is, we want them to like us still.
Yeah.
right? We don't wanna like get into a fight,
and ask the question,
yeah,
Mhm.
this type of scenario, is it normal depending on the market? Like if this is the seller's market, the seller might have 10 offers over asking price, so they might say like, why is this buyer asking to do all these repairs? I don't want to work, and I have another offer backed up. Is this kind of situation normal?
Well, if they get here's the thing, this is already an under contract deal because now it's at inspection time. But if they have 10 other offers, right, if they have 10 offers up front for multiple offer scenario, you don't know what's you might have one offer that's asking for an inspection and one offer that's not. So there is a scenario where that's just presenting the facts of the offers to allow the person to select which one is best. This is where they're now under contract.
yeah, but
And-
sellers might be more in the situation that you're describing, let's say there were 10 offers. And we accept these people. You know, that could make a seller more bullish, to basically say like. We picked these people out of that.
Oh, yeah,
20
that's a good
people,
point.
like, how dare these, do they know how good they have it that we picked them out of the bunch? So that's definitely, it feeds into the dynamic and makes it a little bit more likely.
Well, they can also go down that rabbit hole of, you know what, let's call all those other agents back, let's get rid of this one, let's call the other one back and get those other 9 on the board and find somebody else. They could totally play, if they had multiple offers, yeah, they could take this down many rabbit holes. Okay, questions before we now demonstrate what to do in this situation. Any questions before we go to what, so you just saw don't do that, which by the way, let me give you a little tip that, if you are naturally, either you in the room or anybody watching this recording later, if you are naturally I am naturally a heart on my sleeve type person. Very transparent, heart on my sleeve. It's hard, like, sometimes it's hard to hide my facial expressions. I will tell people how I feel. I've done it recently. So if you are naturally that person, then you want to start practicing techniques to, so for example, you're going to see the inspection stuff before you show it to your seller. You're going to see the inspection stuff before you show it to your buyer. Okay, now we're using the inspection one as the example today, but you can have this in multiple scenarios, right? Look at everything, think about all worst case scenarios and practice how you would keep your emotions in check when those scenarios happen, right? If you find yourself in a situation and you weren't expecting it and you feel yourself, because you feel it before you say it, typically, right? Breathing techniques work. Like,
Right. Yeah, you're not gonna lose credibility by.
like just sit there and just go. Just breathe, right? And then pause. Because what you're doing is you're gathering your thoughts and you're squishing down. I'm using that phrase, you know, like it, you're squishing down those emotions bubbling up. You're squishing down wanting to feed into this. Again, you do not want to feed in to what just occurred.
Yeah, and one of the benefits that Alana just alluded to is that we do have the inspection report. You're not going to like receive it and open it up with your client and go through it. So there's two advantages. There's two advantages that you have. You might have some insight into what kind of client you have in terms of how you think they're going to react. And you're going to have, and you want to go through this thing in a detailed way before you're going to talk to your clients, right? You want to highlight for yourself, okay, these are the things that are going to be a big deal, and figure out how to kind of communicate it in a way. It's almost like a compliment sandwich.
Yeah,
Like if you're,
it's cookie.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So like, all these
Oreo.
buyers are really reasonable in this way. Well, we can kind of get into it, but you'll at least have, it's worth kind of thinking through what your process is going to look like. Just to kind of set yourself up in a position to succeed.
And I want to use another example and then we'll go into actually demonstrating what to do in this scenario. So the example I want to share right now is something that could occur that's not so the inspection report, you get it, you can read it, you kind of know if your client is that steady Eddie or kind of that like high strung person. If you know you're working with a high strung client who's very needy, you know they're going to be pushed back, you know they're going to be emotional. So practice your breathing techniques ahead of time and what you're going to say. But sometimes there are things that pop up throughout the process, buyer or seller, that just catch everybody off guard. So I'll give you an example. The example I want to give is lenders. We're going to give this example. All of a sudden, let's say you are working with the seller, say I'm a listing agent, and Shank's the buyer agent. Okay. And all of a sudden, Shank calls me, or worse, sends me an email. Oh my God, I can't stand that. Sorry, pet peeve, notice my emotions right there. Shank sends me an email and it says, my buyers are switching lenders last minute. By the way, we're like 2 weeks out from selling. My buyers are switching lenders last minute because something financially fell through and now they don't know if they qualify, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'll send you over the new stuff. So now you as the listing agent are probably sitting there thinking, what? You're 2 weeks away from settlement. You just got this email. You now have to call your seller. And what's going through your mind?
They're gonna be pissed. what did I do wrong? Should I prepare them for this? I'm gonna lose my commission. I've done all this work. Like, there's a lot of things. Yeah,
I'll say beep because we're recording.
right, a whole bunch of stuff, right, yeah, OB members.
So you already know there's going to be a motion in this conversation. Okay, because the seller is most likely, has most likely already lined up their other home they're living in 2 weeks from now. And you're about to call them and say to them, this might fall through. They're changing financing. This was unexpected. So you already know prior to calling the seller, there's going to be some heated words happening. Not at you, but the seller might use some heated words, right? Which rightfully so. They should be heated. If you were selling your house, you think you're moving somewhere in 2 weeks and all of a sudden you think it's about to fall through, wouldn't you be heated? Absolutely. But as an agent, what do we have to do?
Remain in control and provide a solution.
Remain in control, provide solutions. Keep them as calm as you possibly can. Right? So I might make that call and say,
Yeah.
okay, and then we'll do the.
Yeah.
So ring.
Oh, hey, Alana, what's up?
Hey Doug, well, first of all, please save my name in your phone. Hey Doug, listen, I am calling you with some news. I'm gonna be really upfront with you. Number one, this is not the greatest news I'm calling you with, and it's gonna be okay. We're gonna work through and get some solutions.
All right,
So I just got off the phone with, by the way, prior to calling, I took that email, I called the buyer agent, I called their new lender. Like I did the legwork first to figure out what was going on. So I had some answers. Right? I'm not calling him right away. I'm probably calling him like 5 or 6 hours after this moment happened. Because I need to do legwork to figure out what's going on. Is it truly going to go through? Is it truly going to fall? Do we know anything? You need answers first or something. Okay. So hey Doug, listen. I got an email and I talked to the buyer agent. Something happened with the buyer's financing. I know.
okay.
So what they've already done is they've reached out to a different lender to get different financing. They're working with that. I
Well, didn't something happened, didn't they have a pre-approval letter? Wasn't that, I thought this was kind of locked and loaded, we're closing in 2 weeks, like, how does this even happen?
By the way, notice I didn't interrupt them. Let them vent. Let them go off. They need to get out. First of all, definitely understand the frustration. That's why I'm here. We're gonna walk through all this together. Okay. Unfortunately, sometimes during pre-approval, during a full approval process with any buyer out there, something could pop up that nobody knows in their financing, that's a surprise.
Right.
And it just happens. Okay, so here's what I've already done. I'm gonna move this. I've already talked to their lender, their new one. They're working on a different financing. We may have to push out settlement a little bit longer because it might take a little longer for finance to go through. We're gonna work on that. Okay. And I've already talked to that buyer agent. They still are very excited about this home.
Okay,
But I want to let you know right away. As I get this information, and I'm gonna know more
sure,
in the next few days.
it sounds like I need to reschedule movers, I need to get some ducks in a row here. I mean, yeah, I guess all we can do is. You know, make sure we're prepared for any eventuality, like, is there?
So right now, my recommendation, again, this is based off calls and blah, 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 right? Right now, my recommendation is to call your mover. We might push this out on my guess. Now, again, I won't know anything until this lender shows. Okay, but just know that as soon as I know, you're gonna.
Okay.
So
I mean, we had other buyers, do we need to like put this back in the market? How prepared should I be?
right now, if I didn't talk to the other lender, they didn't have something else lined up, we would have that conversation right now.
Okay.
But right now, I've talked to the lender, they have something else lined up, that lender feels confident about their conversation with them and what they can do. So let's see what happens in the next 2 days.
Okay,
I'm gonna be talking to you today, tomorrow, or the next day. You're gonna hear from me more than you would want to. Okay, I'm like right here. And we're gonna work through this. Right now, what I recommend today doing is, first of all, like, for family, obviously. that we might push this out a week, I do recommend calling the mover, seeing their flexibility
sure they have
last minute,
openings, right?
right?
Yeah.
Or maybe, I know we're 2 weeks from now, maybe about 3 weeks from now, 3.5.
Right.
See what their flexibility is. I would ask that mover like, hey, if I need to call last minute. Right?
Yeah.
So I do recommend doing that for them.
All right,
And then
I'll do that.
I'm gonna be in touch with you probably again later tonight and tomorrow.
All right, yeah, keep me posted.
All right, what you hear from that?
Like effective in moving in a direction.
Effective, calm, but I heard his frustration and I simply acknowledged the frustration. Take the lead. Come prepared. Come prepared. Never sugarcoat. Notice how I said, because I talked to the lender, let's wait 1 or 2 days. Now, if you think it's gonna fall through, say, listen, I'm gonna prepare you. This might actually not move forward. I will know in the next few days and you're gonna hear from me more than you want to, but I'm gonna prepare you now. We may have to put this on the market, we may have to, and we will work through that together. Don't ever sugarcoat, never lie, never, but you wanna do it a very like, it's going to be okay, I'm here. This is my job to protect you as much as I can. Is that?
Yeah.
Never get defensive. Be very careful. That's also really easy for agents to, not even agents. It's so easy as people to get defensive. We naturally have been brought up to get defensive over this. As just humans. So if you find yourself in that moment, like we kind of feel it, right? We kind of feel when we're like, oh, just breathe. Just take a step back, breathe. Again, practice is really important here. All right.
And well, just one more thing to
Oh, yeah.
follow up on that, you don't want to minimize. Did you say it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to minimize things, but you also don't want them to feel like this is a snowflake situation that couldn't have ever happened before in the universe, right? So it's this delicate balance where you're like, this loan was there, the deal is contingent on financing, but it's not a cash deal, so it's always kind of lingering that something could potentially fall through. You're like 82% of the time, there's no issues whatsoever, but it's, but every once in a while, this does happen. Even in the event everybody can be working in good faith, we're gonna do some digging, we're gonna make sure they didn't make any misrepresentations on the pre-approval, we're gonna make sure that they've met all their timelines too. Just to kind of. So again, don't minimize it, but also like try to put it into context. So it's just be like, oh my God, how is this conceivably happening to me? Like this is only something that happened to base rate. Like,
That's a great point, yeah, because if you minimize it, they're gonna feel as if you don't care. If I'm like, yeah, you know what, so financing fell through, now that we know that, yeah, that happens. If your tonality is everything in this conversation. Yeah,
Just a quick value add, I think, with your permission, I would love for you guys to leverage us in those sort of situations. Personally, I'm happy to, if we are the ones who are then inheriting the deal and trying to navigate, getting you to settlement, I'm more than comfortable reaching out to the listing agent on your behalf, giving them, the confidence of not only have you spoken to the lender, but this is your preferred lender who's going to keep them in communication with everything. Deals fall apart for all kinds of different things, whether it's, a Rocket Mortgage they never got a bank statement, but they just said they had X amount in the bank, or, it's something that's not the borrower's fault, like an appraisal issue or something, inspections or something like that. But if it's something that we're then taking over, happy on your behalf to kind of add reassurance to them, make sure it goes through.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ben from Direct Mortgage Lending.
yeah, but seriously, if you're gonna leverage your resources.
Yeah.
Plus like.
You have to have the conversation as well. Okay, so you talk to them first and then get them. Bring in that other voice as well, right, for the extra support. Yeah. All right, questions before we go back to the inspection demonstration on how to handle that? Any questions?
You said you received the email from the buyer's agent saying that the financing fell through. So you were already mad at the buyer's agent that probably is not the professional way.
As an agent, I'm sitting there frustrated.
So how would your conversation with the buyer's agent go?
Oh, that's a really good question. You always, again, don't get defensive. The buyer agent had no control over this, hopefully. Say the word hopefully, because not everybody's trained in how to navigate people through financing. Okay. You need to play nice in the sandbox. Agents and agent relationships can truly make or break a deal. So that, I love that question. So your emotions need to stay in check for this as well. So I'm gonna call, I saw the email. I'm gonna get my frustrations out, so I'm probably gonna have some choice words to my computer. I'm probably gonna read the email and say some words out loud, right? And then I'll be like, okay, let me eat lunch because I'm hungry. Okay, now I'm gonna call the buyer. Now I'm gonna call the buyer agent. So I'm gonna call. And it's going to be, hey Shank, it's Alana. So. Right, listen, I just saw your email. I just want to call to find out a little more detail. Always come from curiosity. Always come from curiosity. You don't know what's happening. You don't know. There was a scenario where a deal fell apart 2 days prior to settlements. 3 years ago, I was coaching an agent. Deal fell apart 2 days prior to settlement. The seller already had another house lined up, which that then fell apart. So this was a trickle effect of multiple people not getting in the houses. Emotions were all over the place. And 2 days prior to settlement, very sad. The agent who was working with the buyer had to, the financing had to fall, the financing had to fall through. They had to force it to fall through because their child was diagnosed with an illness, non-curable illness. So this move in the financing, they had to take all their money and deal with that. You don't know what's happening in a person's life. You have no idea on either end. You don't know why the seller's selling. You don't know why the buyer's buying. You don't know their family if they're not your client. So always come from curiosity. And never from defense. So it's going to be, hey, I got your email. Sorry to hear this. Obviously, this was not an email I was expecting, but can you share with me a little bit more detail? Right? Have they chosen the lender already yet? Okay, who's that lender? I'd love to call them as well. Talk to the other lender. You are allowed to talk to all the lenders, and you should. Communication is our best friend in real estate. Guess what? This buyer agent was also in 2 weeks expecting it to settle, and this buyer agent is probably also as frustrated as you are because they're probably expecting this commission check to pay some bill of theirs in their family life. So this agent is just as annoyed as you are, just as frustrated. We're in the same boat together. The buyer agent's not sitting there going, well, I don't really care. I don't need a closing. No, they're sitting there probably banging their head against the wall. Okay? Just like you are. So be in it together.
Yep.
Hey, okay, is there anything? Let me talk to the lender. Who is it? Okay, how are you doing? Are you okay? Let me check on you. Scale to 10, you know your buyer best. Like, how much do we feel this is going to actually like go for and close? Because I need to call my seller. Like, what are we thinking here? So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we always need to put ourselves in the other person's shoes? We need to be thinking of we're dealing with people, human lives. Oh, that's a good question.
So rather than like calling the other person and just venting out like, hey man, what the hell?
No, never venting.
Like, tell me what happened.
Because it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Right? It might not even be the buyer's fault. It might be. They might lie. But we don't know that. We don't know that. We don't know anything. And if I call the buyer agent and start venting, what does that do? sours the relationship. Now, what if that agent, okay, you're the buyer's agent still, what if all of a sudden, 3 months from now, you get a listing? And I'm working with the buyer, and I submit an offer. What do you think he's thinking? Yeah, now as agents, are we allowed to pick and choose? No, it's up to presenting it. But we're humans and we also got, unfortunately, we do guide people.
Well, right, and also,
I'm looking at the broker as I say this.
Right. you can make assumptions and like a transitive effect that happens when you act a certain type of way. If you act like a jerk, remember, you're always representing
Why
someone.
would someone
else.
want to work with you?
Then why would somebody want to work with you? And if you're being a jerk, the other side's gonna assume that the buyer's a jerk, or your client is a jerk too, right? So it's not even just about what you're working with.
Yeah.
You can really poison the well. So let's say a really creative, great solution comes up. People just get kind of like, screw these people. I don't want to work with them anymore. And we.
Well, that's what happened, but when you first came on as a broker, that happened with the deal. There was some creative solutions that were happening to make this deal move forward and close, and it absolutely could have closed. It 100% could have closed, but there was so much souring that happened between agent and agent. So much that it just squashed it. There was no saving it because it was the agent's fault, both parties.
Same way we pick up on our client's emotion, they pick up on our emotion too.
And then the seller ended up firing their listing agent, and then who knows what happened with them. The buyer didn't get their house. They truly figured out all these solutions to finally get. So then they had to figure out where am I living because their rent was up. We could cause someone's homelessness. Like, let's keep it really real right now. Right? Not to get all dark, but.
Yep.
Scare anybody, but to scare you. Let's just go right back to you being all frustrated about the investments,
Okay.
or not investments,
Repairs.
repairs, yeah. Let's be all. What to do?
But you'll
Part
take the
two.
lead. You might hand it to me.
Oh, there you go. Okay, Doug,
Yeah.
so,
So we're meeting face to face. That's probably smart. If you know you're about to give me bad news, huh?
I prefer to meet all my people face to face because it's a lot easier, but if it's over the phone, just keep your tone in check, because they can't see your body language, they can't see your smile. Right? They can't see your eyes over the phone. Now, if you can't be face to face and you can like Zoom or something like that, I do recommend that. Then you can see the person, because you want to see their reaction.
Yep.
To be able to be ready for it. You can see a person's emotions when they do it sometimes. Yeah.
Yep.
So, hey Doug, so number one, inspection is done.
Right.
Remember back when we first started showing houses, we talked about the expectation that there would be that big, huge report of different things the inspector finds.
Yep.
That's not all critical, but they just have to find a lot of things.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what happened.
Looks like a big stack of paper you're holding. Yeah.
Big stack of paper. Acknowledge it. Yes, it is.
Right.
It is a big stack of paper, and I've already gone through it.
Right.
And we talked in the beginning about critical items,
Sure.
safety things,
Okay.
not the light switches upside down. I
Okay.
joked about that.
Yep. Right.
So I already took the liberty of highlighting certain critical things in here
Okay.
that we'll walk through together. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to ask for everything. Just remember that anything you ask for, the seller now has the right to say yes, no, or squash the deal.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll put the ball back in their court just a minute.
Okay.
However, my job is to navigate this with you, to get off to the seller, see what they're willing to do.
Okay. I mean, it looks like a lot of stuff, but we'll go through it. All right. Yeah. Okay.
I'm here to walk you through this.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's do it.
Be as worried as you want, because that's what I'm here to squash the worries.
Okay.
All right.
Yes,
So
it's a bad house, right? Then we can screw this house, right?
there's the thing, if there are certain things that really stand out to you and you're truly concerned, my job is I'm gonna call the listing agent and I'm gonna talk to them about those items.
Yeah. If I like this house, but if it's gonna be really expensive, right? If it's gonna be really expensive, I'm not as interested.
I will give you solutions, right? So there's things we can ask for, doesn't mean they're going to do it, doesn't mean they'll say yes,
Sure.
but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yep.
There's ways we can ask for, what's called seller contribution, seller help to offset some. Doesn't mean they'll say yes.
Sure.
Okay, so let's walk through this first, and then we'll create a plan together.
Okay.
Okay, what'd you hear from that? Calm.
Yep.
Remain calm. No, it's not the end. Here's the thing. He said, oh, looks like a lot of papers. Yeah. It is.
It's funny for a lawyer to say.
Yeah.
I know. He's
Lot of big words in there.
paper, right? So now, one step you can take, let's say he pushes back. Like, let's say you look through that and you just get overly heated about something.
Okay, great, like. All right, Alana, I look this over, I appreciate all the preparation that you did, you highlighted stuff. We're just like at the top of my price range here, right? Now they're saying. The water heater's old, the air conditioner's old, there was like 2 windows that didn't open properly. You know, there was a little bit of moisture in the basement, I have no idea what that means, like, does that mean this thing floods, does that mean there's mold, like. I'm getting a little worried, like, maybe we need to walk away from this if it doesn't make sense, for me.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing those concerns. Paint is not to work with what you just shared.
Mhm.
Let me share this approach that I just took, and we're gonna take this further. Acknowledging what they say, not agreeing with it. So to acknowledge something, it's, thank you for bringing that up, or I'm so glad you shared that concern with me, or I'm hearing what you're saying, thank you. So you're just acknowledging, that also gives you time to process and think. By saying those words, you're buying yourself, you're letting their client know that you're hearing them, that you're listening. Without getting emotional, but it also buys you time to kind of think through this and breathe. Right? Because what you're thinking as an agent is probably, sorry, recording, oh shit, this might fall apart. Right? But you can't say that. And you can't show that. Because you're trying to save this, you're trying to move forward. You're trying to save this and move forward if it's the right thing for the buyer. If it's not the right thing for the buyer and this does need to be squashed. Okay, let's go back and start looking at some other houses that are a little less priced, that, right? Like, it's not about, here's your house, go to the closing table. It's about what's right for this person. However, we do want to navigate them through this frustration, see, because they fell in love with a home. Right, so that first, thank you so much for sharing those concerns. Right, I do know that when we went under contract, it is the top of your price point.
Yeah.
And I also know we saw 6 other homes and this had 75% of everything you and the family wanted, which is a high percentage.
Finally found something.
Most people find 70%, you found 75%. Nobody ever finds 100%. Ever. So. Let's do this. Let's go down this list together of all the concerns you just brought up. Let's look at what is really critical, what's not. What are deal breakers, what aren't for you to really like, you know, if something's $400, you want to walk away from this beautiful home over that.
Sure.
If something's $10,000, right? Things like that. So I would walk through this together. And then I'll make a list of everything that you want to ask the
Sure.
seller to help. Again, doesn't mean they're gonna say yes. But let's start there. And now we go into what's called negotiations, and that's what you hired.
Okay,
Sound good?
yeah, sure.
Because you don't, here's the thing, you don't know. You don't know. So I'm gonna walk through this list. He might say, okay, there's 5 things. I'm like, okay, which ones are true deal breakers? Like if this thing is not fixed or I don't get money for this, forget this, I'm walking away. Let me go look at more houses. So out of those 5 things, you might narrow down to 3. And those 3 things, okay. I can send them back to the list agent, but again, notice how I said. They could say no. They could say no. We're back in negotiations. Right, so what you don't want to do there is what
Make a promise.
You don't wanna make a promise. You know what, let me ask for these, let me get you all these things. Let me get all these for you. How you gonna, are you paying for them? There's the thing, if all of a sudden, if there is one thing on there that is $500 worth. And the listing agent, the seller, it's not the listing agent, the seller is like, nope, 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 nope. And the deal's about to fall apart, he's about to lose his dream house for his family over $500. I will absolutely. Agent choice, this is my choice as an agent, you make your own. Okay, I will absolutely work in a, what's the word for
That contribution or you could-
contribution. To get to the seller table. And just that money out of my commissions
I'll split it with it.
to go with that. Like there is. And to be honest, I'll probably call a listing agent first and be like, hey, listen. My buyer's about to walk away over this one thing. I looked it up. I called the contractor. It is $500. I know you want to get to settlement. I know I want to get to settlement. We know our client, like, I know your seller wants to sell, my buyer wants this house. How are your feelings on splitting this cost of settlement? There's the thing, that agent might be like, forget you. Okay, cool. Guess what? I'll do it all day long. All day long. $500 out of a $5,000 check to help him get into his dream house. You know how many referrals you're gonna get off this person?
Or even offer to split it with them, or just do
Offer
something.
to split it. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. But again, the whole scenario there is acknowledge their frustration, but don't agree with it.
Yeah, and the balance is always, and I struggle with this a little bit. Because you're not arguing against them to buy this house, right? Like, that's not your objective. And sometimes we can be perceived that way, like, oh, they're just saving a deal, they're just saving X, Y, and Z. I say all the time, I don't give a crap about this house, I give a crap about you. And if you think this is your dream house. And you're gonna walk away from it, I want you to just have your eyes wide open and understand all the options that are available, so you don't regret it down the road. Right? And I mentioned that people's minds kind of go in a dark place. You brought up contractors. That is such a critical tool. Because people see moisture in the basement, or they see a leaky roof, they're like, oh, it's gonna be $30,000, like, actually, it's like $4,000. So like, and maybe we can work with that, then suddenly like, you're asking for something specific from the seller, maybe they're able to split it with you, and then it just opens up more options, so you just want to. You know, whenever I find myself kind of arguing or pushing for particular outcomes, always kind of check yourself and say, you know, I'll have the conversation, like, I agree with you, like, this is a big deal. Well, we've looked at 30 houses and lost 6 contracts before this, like this, you like this house. So like, we should at least, like, if we're going to walk away, we better understand the numbers and you made that decision and you need to feel great about it. I just don't want you canceling this deal and wondering why we didn't go down these other paths. So it's complicated. It's difficult.
All right, so you saw what not to do. You saw what to do. Questions?
It's easy.
So not easy.
You just manage.
It's, and you know what? It is easy with practice. I'll say that. It is
No,
easy
it's
with a lot of practice.
Yeah.
You will always, as an agent, find yourself super frustrated at any given time. Just, I'll use your phrase, check yourself. Before you pick up the phone or get in front of your client. Or before you pick up the phone and get in front of that other agent. Because again, you will come across those agents who test you out there. You will come across those agents who don't have trainings, don't have anything. They are the most emotional agents ever. I can name a few in my head that I will not say out loud, even though they're not with us. That I know if I, back in the day when I was truly active in the field, when I saw contracts come through on certain names. Now, if it was the right contract and the right thing, I always did right for the client. But I didn't want to. Like, I truly did not want to work with that agent. Right, because that agent, to this day, I literally have like 3 names in my head right now. From 2015, 16, and 17, and to this day. Those agents stand out as. Unethical and just mean people.
And I see, copy me on emails now because I'm a broker. I see all kinds of stuff that wasn't meant to be.
Ooh, don't put things in writing, people, don't put things in
You
writing.
just, you could just like,
Put things in writing.
it's just like screaming at people, just like, wow, but people just.
Yeah, don't be that,
Take your breath.
don't be that agent.
Especially when you have an opportunity, you're. Pose an email, you send out the text, just like, wait a second, think about how it can be perceived.
Cause all we have is our brand, all we have is our name, that's all we have out there. We have our name, and our name is not just with our buyers and sellers, our name is with other agents. Right? So. I can't tell you how many agents have referred me. Buyers and sellers that they couldn't work with any longer, or they didn't work that area. Right? Once you burn one agent, your name kind of gets out there with other agents. Just be very mindful of keeping your emotions in check and practicing ahead of time, like, okay, what's the worst case scenario that might happen when I call my buyer or seller right now? Let me come from curiosity before I call this agent and go off on them. And even if that agent starts going off of you, on you, what is it, you catch more bees with honey,
Oh, yeah,
right? Is it the phrase?
sure,
Kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
Just get,
that's mine.
some agent starts swearing at me and cursing at me and give me a whole new language, as I like to call it. I hope you have an amazing day. I really do. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you. Now, when I got off the phone, you better believe I'm like heated. I'll call my friend up and I'll, gotta let it out somewhere, just not on those individuals. Questions? You play a good frustrated. You play a good frustrated person, Doug. I like it.
It's as if I've encountered some of these people in my travels.
Feel like you've experienced this.
It's like, I had a transaction pretty recently. Where I was representing the sellers, and these sellers. They were difficult, they did not really understand, their house needed a lot of work, and they thought their house was beautiful, they thought it was perfect 10 of the time.
Never happens.
Right, so I got this inspection in hand, I'm like, oh. Shit. They are gonna be pissed when I share this with them. And I knew the big thing was their roof, okay? So I look at this, I don't send it to them. I drive 45 minutes to see them face to face. I don't know if this is correct, but this is what I decided to do. And I really thought about how I was gonna present this. Like, there's some things I like about this report, things I don't like about this report. Like, they didn't really ask for a lot of the ticky-tack stuff, right? Like, this is a 60-page report. They didn't ask to, tighten the door handles, or they didn't ask for any of that stuff. They asked for a roof, and they asked for moisture in the basement. And, you just kind of walk through it, and then, oh, here's a quote that I got from a contractor. Oh, by the way, here's an updated seller net sheet, so you can see like, oh, you might need to give an $8,000 credit, but you're still walking away with $40,000. Like, there are little things that you can do to just come in as prepared as possible. And it was an uncomfortable conversation, and like, they didn't really say a lot. I just kind of gave my spiel and just walked through like, hey, first I'll get you a quote on this, and then we'll do this. And like, okay, there's a game plan. Like, I don't love what's happening, but we have a plan.
How did then?
I think they appreciated the seller net sheet. They're like, okay, a couple of contracts have fallen apart. Yeah. So, and they're like, okay, let's just do this thing. Let's just give them a credit for whatever it was. And it did all work out. But these are the type of people I'm like, they're gonna hate this report. Like, they're gonna be so mad. All right, let's frame this up as nicely as possible. It did work out. Yeah, they worked out.
My favorite thing about that story you just shared was you did the legwork to provide a bunch of different solutions.
Yeah.
And you went and prepared, knowing what their emotions could be.
Yeah.
But you took control and owned those solutions.
So it's the same thing
Here
with the
you
lender,
go,
like, as
right?
long as people feel like. Okay, this is bad news, but here's step A, B, and C, and we'll have a conversation at A, have a conversation at B, have a conversation at C, and at least like, okay, I feel like. This is gonna, like, we have at least a handle on it, so that's all you can do.
All right. Perfect ending, perfect example right there. How's everybody's emotions?